It is too much corruption going on within the church for us not to get to the root of the problem. I mean, we got to go to the spiritual root. We have men dropping it like it's hot on stage, people calling God a stripper, gay pastors, all kind of lustful, adulterous practices, old men marrying young girls. It's just too much corruption, too much wickedness for us not to address. And if you go back to the Old Testament, you will notice that the children of Israel will commit trespass against God, and they would go and commit whoredoms by serving other gods, the gods of the Canaanites, Baal and Ashtoreth and whatever other gods of those nations, Syrian gods and Canaanite gods and Chemosh and Remphan and all those different gods that they would go serve. And these gods would have them commit these same things that we're seeing in the church. It's like people are losing their sensitivity. And then I started doing some research. I started looking up the Kabbalah. I started looking up Canaanite gods, Canaanite religion, Gnosticism, and all these different things to understand the origins, Mormonism, Calvinism, all these different things. And I noticed that these things had something in common. They all believe in Yahweh. They all believe in El and Elohim and the many gods. And this is not to spook people out because, the children of Israel are doing the same thing. Well, they did the same thing that we're seeing at Bohemian Grove, where they sacrifice kids and offer up sacrifices to these different devils. So it ain't nothing new. It's been done. Satan knows how to orchestrate. But when it comes to calling God El, which they called him, their God El just meant lowercase God, and Elohim meant many gods or many deities. And so the Hebrews, the occultist Hebrews, they may have adopted this and begin to infiltrate and call this stuff in our church. And the Kabbalah and the Canaanites, they call Yahweh their God too. So, and now we're saying that in the Hebrew, it means God too. And so if we are in error for Baal and Ashtoreth worship, because Baal and Ashtoreth or Yahweh and Ashtoreth or El and Ashtoreth, they get together and they start mating and having sex. They start doing that kind of stuff. I'm trying to screen myself for TikTok. And so if these things have crept in the church because of our ignorance, because we think that, oh, it's a Hebrew translation, we got to do it right by the Hebrew, and we have gotten deceived, then of course they can begin to desensitize God's pastors because we are in error. We're in false worship. We're calling on the names of other gods ignorantly. And so what I am suggesting us to do as a church is to go back to the source, go back to the Father, because Jesus Christ, when he showed up, he didn't just show up to offer himself as a sacrifice. He came to point us to the way. And he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So he was destroying all those occultist practices and those occultist worship, just as well as, giving us eternal life. So he was just pointing us into that narrow road. And if you got different religions like Mormonism, Kabbalah, Gnosticism, and all these different things agreeing that Elohim, Yahweh is their God, and he's their supreme being and all this stuff, but they're against Jesus, we got to look at that. We got to take a look at that. And I'm not telling y'all to just, take my word for it, but do your research, type it up, look it up, go to the library, get books, because Google might be a little perverted as well, because anybody can put stuff on Google. But do your research so that we can get to the bottom of all this corruption and all this lewdness that's going on.